Hey, hello everybody. Good morning and welcome to another funky bunch at Sunday Brunch Podcast. How are we all doing today? It's another beautiful day as we're hitting that winter. But we've got that warm coffee, we got that good conversation going, and we've got more Final Fantasy to review. Every day's a beautiful day. Unless it's snowing, then it's a horrible day. But it's not snowing here, therefore it is a beautiful day. We can go over my distaste for the winter on another podcast, if we want. But we've still got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I still got 15 open tabs to talk about. So we have to get moving. So first up we got is Dissidia Final Fantasy. So Dissidia Final Fantasy is a fighting game with ARPG elements developed and published by Square for the PSP. It was released in December of 2018 as part of the Final Fantasy 20th Anniversary series, and it's the first title in the Dissidia Final Fantasy subseries. The game features 20 characters from the original 10 installments in the Final Fantasy series battling in a 3D environment, with role-playing elements allowing characters to be leveled up and customized. I don't really know much about Dissidia. I've heard about Dissidia, but the Dissidia I know is not the Final Fantasy Dissidia. So, the plot centers around a conflict between Cosmos, the goddess of harmony, and Chaos, the god of discord. Each god has summoned 10 warriors to fight for them against the opposing god. After a previous struggle left Cosmos weakened, she instructs her warriors to find 10 crystals that contain the power of light, which can turn the tide of war if they can gather them all. So this game is a one-on-one action-based fighting game in which battles take place in fully rendered 3D arenas based on locations from the different series. Characters can earn experience and level up, and their weapons and armors and accessories and their abilities can be customized. The game features both single-player gameplay, in which the player can progress through the story or stage fights against an AI, and multiplayer, which is just, fighting against your friends. A prequel called Dissidia 12 Final Fantasy was released for the PSP, and then a sequel, Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, was released for arcade systems and for the PS4. So Dissidia is an action-based fighting game mixed with RPG elements. Battles take place on the fully rendered 3D fields, with characters free to roam around as they please. The environment can be interacted with, like characters can run up walls, grind along railings, destroy pillars and floors. Players have 2 types of attack, bravery and HP. Every character has their bravery points displayed above their HP bar. And whenever they land an HP attack, the damage done is equal to their bravery. Striking an opponent with a bravery attack will drain their bravery and increase their attackers, thus increasing the HP damage that they can do. If a player's bravery is reduced to below 0, they enter break mode, where they cannot inflict HP damage. Bravery attacks against them do increased damage, and their opponent receives a significant boost to their bravery. Each character has a unique fighting style and attacks, usually based on the character's abilities in the original game. In addition to those attacks, players can use summons to assist them and can find new summons in certain stages or as part of a stage bonus. There is also an EX bar meter that fills up during battle by collecting the EX force that appears when players strike each other, or the randomly appearing EX scores. Once filled, the players can enter EX mode, which grants a character-specific bonus and gives them access to EX burst, a special move, which is akin to a limit break. These moves often references characters' other attacks in their respective game, such as Squall using Renzo Kuken or Kefka using Light of Judgment. Of the 22 playable characters, each maintains their own experience levels and shares the same equipment supply. Characters begin at level 1 with only a handful of basic moves, but as they gain EXP and level up, they can learn more advanced moves. Moves are equipped using CP, or crystal points, with the character able to equip as many moves as they wish as long as the total does not exceed their maximum CP. By earning AP, the character can master a move, reducing the CP needed to equip it, and sometimes making new abilities appear. Okay, so the arenas from the original game. So from Final Fantasy 1, they have the old Chaos Shrine. From Final Fantasy 2, they have Pandemonium. Final Fantasy 3, they've got World of Darkness. Final Fantasy 4, they've got the Lunar Subterrane. Final Fantasy 5, they have the Rift. 6, they've got Kefka's Tower. 7, there's Planet's Core. 8 has Ultimacia's Castle. 9 is the Crystal World. And 10 has Dream's End. So those are the different locations. Alright. So the characters that you can play as, let's see. So there are 22 playable characters in all, a hero and a villain from each of the first Final Fantasy games, and a secret character from both 11 and 12. Oh. So from Final Fantasy 1, the characters you can play are as the Warrior of Light and Garland. From Final Fantasy 2, there's Firion and the Emperor. From Final Fantasy 3, there's the Onion Knight and the Cloud of Darkness. From Final Fantasy 4, there's Cecil and Golbez. From Final Fantasy 5, there's Bartz, Klauser, and Exdeath. From 6, there's Terra Branford and Kefka Palazzo. From 7, there's Cloud Strife and Sephiroth. From 8, there's Squall Leonhardt and Ultimacia. From 9, there's Zidane Tribble and Kuja. From 10, there's Titus Inject. From 11, there's Shantoto. And from 12, there's Gabronth. Sorry, it's not your favorite bunny girl. Fran is not a secret character, and that was a voice crack there. But yeah, that is Dissidia. Moving on to Dissidia 12. This came out March of 2011 as the prequel and remake to the 2008's Dissidia Final Fantasy. It features all the gameplay and arenas from the previous title, with a few modifications, 9 new characters, 7 new arenas, and an added prequel story. Let's see. Basically the exact same, except this time when you use bravery, you steal your opponent's bravery instead of giving your bravery attack to your opponent. So in the first game, when you used a bravery attack, you did more damage to their HP, but after you did that attack, you lost your bravery and you gave it to them. So now the goal is to use bravery to steal their bravery to reach them down to break mode, where you can do more damage. So, yeah. Let's see. There's a new assist system, which allows characters to call an ally into battle, allowing new combos to be created by chaining 2 character moves together in different fashions. The assist system acts as a counterbalance mechanic to the EX mode system, as landing an assist attack can deplete the opponent's EX gauge, and as the player enters EX mode, the opponent's assist gauge is depleted. The EX gauge can also be used to execute a new technique entitled EX Revenge, which will slow down the opponent's movements for several seconds at the cost of consuming the EX gauge without entering EX mode. Several characters have gained new attacks, and several returning moves have had their properties change. Mostly a bunch of rebalances. So, they didn't tell us what the summons were for the first Dissidia, but they added 8 more. Who they added were Brynhilde, Calcabrina, Sildra, Ultimia, Landworm, Hectoncair, Giant of Babel, and Zalera. Okay. So, the arenas they added. Final Fantasy II, they added Pandemonium Top Floor. Final Fantasy III, they added Crystal Tower. Final Fantasy VI, they added the Phantom Train. Final Fantasy IX, they added MS Prima Vista. 11, they added Imperial Paradox. And 12, they added Sky Fortress Bahamut. And from 13, they added Orphan's Cradle. Alright. And the characters that they added then, from Final Fantasy IV, they added Kain Highwind. From 5, they added Gilgamesh. From 7, they added Tifa and Aerith. From 8, they added Laguna Lore. From 10, they added Yuna. From 11, they added Prish. From 12, they added Vaughn. And from 13, newly added, they gave us Lightning. Sorry, your person is still not there. And of course, don't forget, we've also got Dissidia NT for the PS4, which was released in 2015. Then it came out in November of 2015 for arcades. And then it came out in January of 2018 for the PS4. Oh, and it was released on Steam in 2019. And they actually added a major update March 5th of this year. But online things are still available. Cool. They completely remade the battle system for this game. So the player is part of a team of 3 characters. Oh god. Excuse me. So you have a team of 3 characters. You command one, while the other 2 characters are AI controlled. A player can choose more than one of the same character on their team, and one-on-one combat is still available. Playable characters are divided into 4 combat categories to identify that character's personal fighting style. There's the power-oriented vanguards, focused on dealing the highest damage and are the designated tanks of the team. Then there's the agility-based assassins that have fast mobility or very high attack speed. There's the ranged marksmen, primarily attacking from a distance, and the varied specialists that have unique battle traits. All fighting styles, except the specialists, adhere to a rock-paper-scissors rule, with assassins being strong against marksmen, marksmen being strong against vanguards, and vanguards being strong against assassins. There are still the same core elements, such as there are 2 attacks, brave attacks, and HP attacks. Brave attacks decreases the opponent's bravery and increases the amount of damage you can do. HP attack will inflict damage equal to the player's current bravery. Decreasing opponent's bravery to 0 will result in a bravery break. Characters have 7 bravery attacks at a time, 3 ground attacks, 3 mid-air attacks, and 1 attack that can be performed while dashing. Each character can equip 1 HP attack. Some attacks that were HP attacks are now brave attacks. Players cannot customize brave attacks and can customize only 1 HP attack and 2 EX skills. It's possible to save battle sets for characters like 1 HP attack, 2 XP skills, and a costume. Each character has their own independent HP bar, and the party has 1 HP bar and a summon bar. When the player character is KO'd, one part of the team HP bar is erased. The global HP bar depletes, the team loses. Alright, let's read off all of the different stages, because they're completely different now. Yay! So the stage from Final Fantasy is Cornelia. From 2 is Pandemonium. From 3 is the Floating Continent. 4, Lunar Subterrane. 5, Interdimensional Rift. 6, the Narsh Outskirts. 7 is Midgard. 8 is the Promised Meadow. 9 is Alexandria. 10 is Besaid Island. 11 is Stellar Fulcrum. 12 is the Royal City of Rabanasta. 13 is Eden. 14 is Porta Decumana. 15 is Insomnia. Final Fantasy Tactics is Orbone Monastery. And Final Fantasy Type 0 is Academia's Fountain Courtyard. And the characters. They only added a couple. So they added a character from Final Fantasy VI, which is Locke Cole. From Final Fantasy VIII, Renoa Heartlily. From 11, they added Cumlanaut. From 12, they added Vayne. From 13, they added Snowvilliers. From 14, I can't pronounce these names, Yishtola Rule and Xenos Ye Galvus. And from 15, they added Noctis Lucis Callum, and I'm not going to say the other person because I think that person is a villain. I am unsure. So I'm not going to tell you their name. And then there are summons. Only a handful of summons. There's Ifrit, Shiva, Ramu, Odin, Leviathan, Alexander, and Bahamut. Yeah. That is what we're going to do. Well, that's what we're going to say on Dissidia Final Fantasy. Oh my god, and there's another one. Oh, here's a free-to-play iOS Android game, Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. This was released worldwide at the end of January of 2018. While the battle system is more similar to a traditional JRPG rather than a brawler, it features mechanics from the previous Dissidia titles. Interesting. So, Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Omnia, in case you wanted to check it out for free, if it's still up. So, Opera Omnia follows with the missions-based gameplay of recent Square Enix mobile games. Players are encouraged to traverse a series of fixed maps in story mode, following the game's narrative while fighting baddies and collecting materials for the various cast members and their equipment. Players may also undertake a series of rotating mission campaigns to collect new characters and other rare items, either solo or with the aid of their fellow players. Aww. It's like they're cute chibi sprites. This is English, right? Yeah. It is English. It says the following characters are available as of the Japanese release. So did they not update it? Whatever. Okay, so all of the characters you can get in this game. From Final Fantasy I, the Warrior of Light and Garland. From Final Fantasy II, Firion, Maria, Leon, the Emperor, and Guy. From Final Fantasy III, you can get Onion Knight, Cloud of Darkness, Desh, and Zondi. From 4, you can get Cecil, Edge, Yang, Kane, Palom, Rydia, Cecil. So Cecil is Dark Knight Cecil and Paladin Cecil, Rosa, Golbez, Porum, and Edward. And then from the horrible follow-up, there's Theodore from the After Years. From 5, you can get Bartz, Ferris, Galoof, Krill, Lena, Gilgamesh, and Exdeath. From 6, you can get Terra, Shadow, Setzer, Sabin, Cyan, Edgar, Celeste, Kefka, Realm, Locke, Gao, Leo, Strago, and Mog the Moogle. From 7, yes, there is a playable character in Final Fantasy VI. His name is Mog. He's a secret character, and he is a Moogle. And yes, he is a playable character. From 7, you can play as Tifa, Cloud, Yuffie, Vincent, Aerith, Sephiroth, Cid, Kate Sith, Barrett, Reno, and Rude. From Crisis Core, you can play as Zack, and from Advent Children, you can play as Kadaj. From Final Fantasy VIII, you can play as Laguna, Squall, Zell, Irving, Keestis, Rajin, Fujin, Cypher, Selphie, Renoa, and Ultimecia. From 9, you can get Vivi, Zidane, Steiner, Aiko, Garnet, Kuja, Freya, and Beatrix. From 10, you can get Yuno, Waka, Titus, Seymour, Orin, Jack, Lulu. Oh god. Lulu and Kamari. From 10-2, you can get Pain. From 11, you can play as Shantoto, Prish, Lion, Liliset, Afmao, Karnlanaut, Arciela, El Narsh, and Iroha. From Final Fantasy XII, you can get Von, Penelo, Balthier, Ash, Vayne, Bosch, Gabranth, and Fran. From 13, you can play as Saz, Hope, Vanille, Snow, Lightning, and Fang. From 13-2, you can play as Sarah, Noel, Caius. And from 14, you can play as Yishtatol, Yada, Thancred, Papalmo, Alisai, Alfinad, and Lys. From 15, you can play as Noctis Prompto, Ignis, Gladiolos, and 2 characters we don't know yet. Oh my god. And then a bunch of other people we don't know. I might have to check this game out, actually, now that I know it's a free-to-play on your phone. I will slide this over to the side. And moving to the next. Final Fantasy Type 0. This is on Steam. And it's something I'm considering buying and playing at some point for Final Fantasy Saturday as well. Final Fantasy Type 0 was originally announced as Final Fantasy Agito 13 as an ARPG in the Fabula Nova Crystallis Final Fantasy series. It was announced for mobile phones, but then released for the PSP. It was later re-released worldwide as Final Fantasy Type 0 HD for the PS4, Xbox One, and Windows via Steam. This takes place in the world of Oriance, which is divided into 4 nations blessed with crystals. The main protagonists are members of Class 0, a class of 14 Agito cadets from Academia, the magic academy of the Dominion of Rubrum, one of the 4 nations of Oriance. The cadets are tasked to fight against the Militesi Empire to ultimately win the war that has been fought since the time immemorial. This is a fast-paced, action-based combat in which moves are mapped to the face buttons rather than accessed through menus. The cadets each have unique playstyles based on their weapon and on their equipped abilities. Much of the combat involves determining enemies' weak points through kill sight, allowing players to deal a death blow. So the battle system is an evolution of the ATB Kai, which was developed for 10.2, and later... oh my god, I've got something in my throat. Which was later refined in the Crisis Core. However, unlike Crisis Core, the combat is party-based. Instead of navigating through menus, actions are mapped to the face buttons for quick access. There are some fighting game style elements, like movement canceling for skilled actions players. There are 14 playable characters who each have their own playstyle. Some are fast, some are slow, some are ranged, some specialize in close combat, and they have different proficiencies in magic use. The player can equip their party with weapons, accessories, and abilities. One ability slot being reserved for support or defense-type skills. Oh. Players can determine enemies' weak points using skill sight, allowing them to kill a target instantly. Break sight is applicable to enemies with more than 1 bar of health, such as strong monsters, bosses, and enemy leaders. The Alto Crystarium powers up the character's magic using energy called Phantoma, harvested from defeated enemies. When a character absorbs this energy, their magic recovers a bit. The amount of recovery depends on the type of Phantoma, as indicated by the color. Depending on the type of magic, it can be powered up to different areas. For example, the Fire RF magic can be powered up in strength, MP usage, call time, projectile distance, and speed. All party members share the same spells, but their strength depends on the user's magic stat. One with low fire magic can only use fire level magic, whereas those with high level fire magic can use Firaga variants of the spells. Magic comes in 3 elemental types: fire, ice, and thunder. The various spells differ in attack patterns and call method. Other elemental magic is also available, but is categorized as advanced, such as bio, tornado, quake, and even holy. There are shotguns. This type spreads at multiple height levels. It doesn't travel far, but is powerful against close enemies. Shotguns are typically weaker than rifles, but they may hit the enemy instantly. A rifle is the type that shoots straight in the direction of the target. It travels far, but has a narrow range. Its upgrade, Rifle 2, can pierce enemies. There's Bomb. This type is effective in the player's immediate surroundings. It can be useful against quick enemies. I think this is like magic, like you do a shotgun type magic or a rifle type magic or a bomb. Its upgrade, Bomb 2, lasts longer and can damage enemies that come in contact with the spell with more hits. There's Missile. This type chases after the enemy before releasing its magic. Okay. So maybe you pack your magic into weapons, like shotgun shells? I don't know. It doesn't explain it too well. I'm intrigued, though. The higher level magic, that is magic with the Ra and the Ga, like Fira, Fire, Fyra, and Fyraga, at the end of the names, will expand to encompass surroundings. Its upgrade, Missile 2, travels slower, but chases the target constantly when in effect. And then there's Rocket Launcher. When the player begins casting this type, a target will appear. The magic will fire in the direction the player aims. When it strikes, it will explode and damage enemies in the surroundings. Rocket's range is short, but can be adjusted with the targeting point held higher as the projectile itself lobs before crashing to the ground. Characters and Eidolons can learn their individual abilities by using AP 1 through leveling. Acquiring new abilities may unveil more advanced abilities that will strengthen each character or summon according to their fighting style. Like in Final Fantasy XII, the player can choose the leader of their party of 3, and party members can be changed manually or when the leader is KO'd. In some cases, the victory can be decided in other ways, such as defeating the enemy leader, which will trigger the surrender of its minions. Surrendered minions, regardless of humans or monsters, can be interacted with to obtain various items. Summons, called Eidolons, can gain EXP and AP separate from the summoner. When summoned, they replace the summoner, and the player can't have the summoner again in the party until the mission is finished. Interesting. Summons work as normal party members and can be directly controlled by the player or the AI, much like in the Zodiac versions of 12. When a summon is active, if a player changes to the other character, they may not change to the active Eidolon until it is summoned again. Ah. The Eidolon has disappeared either via running out of time or being defeated. The summoner will reappear in a KO'd state. It still allows for reviving until the body disappears for a short time. Triad maneuvers are group combinations that require 3 members to pull off. They are weaker than summons, but can be used multiple times without needing to sacrifice a character. Ah, interesting. So this is a mission-based game. There are also sub-objectives called special orders to strive for. The game has a world map, and the player can ride chocobos or fly an airship and use its weapons in an aerial battle. Battles are initiated by random encounter, but some tough enemies roam around the world map and chase after the players if they get too close. This is interesting. I don't know what I feel about this. You know? ARPG. I mean, I'm willing to give it a try if you guys are interested in it. But anyway, continuing forward, the characters. Each member wields a different weapon and has a unique fighting style. Aside from Machina and Rem, the members are named after the Japanese pronunciations of trumps or playing cards. There's Ace, a blonde-haired boy who wields a deck of cards. Despite his youthful appearance, he speaks and acts mature. Though usually calm, he has a reckless side and will sometimes rush off and act out of anger. There's Deuce, a brunette girl who plays the flute. As the youngest member of Class 0, she is diligent and kind, but can be stubborn. There's Trey, a blonde-haired boy who wields a bow. He takes pride in being well-mannered and knowledgeable, and can be loquacious as a result. Loquacious? I don't know. Cater, a red-haired girl who wields a magicite pistol. She's confident and direct, preferring to be competitive and face things head-on. There's Sinke, A ginger-haired girl who wields a mace. Although innocent and naive, she tends to act unusually and with unpredictable actions. There's Scythe. A silver-haired girl who wields a scythe. Her rough speech gives her a tomboy-like personality, but she has good judgment and determination. 7. A silver-haired girl who wields a whip blade. As the eldest member of her class, her caring nature and ability to understand others make her popular among her underclassmen. There's 8. A red-haired boy who fights with knuckles. Calm and serious, his combat style reflects his dislike of weapons, which he believes takes lives too easily. There's 9. A blonde-haired boy who wields a spear. Impulsive and straightforward, he sees the world in black and white and only feels satisfied when things aren't complicated. There's Jack, a boy who wields a katana. He is upbeat and humorous class clown, often keeps a smile on his face, encouraging others to look on the positive side. There's Queen, a dark-haired girl who wields a longsword. Her dignified appearance and intelligence suit her name, as others often look up to her as a leader. And there's King, a blonde-haired boy who wields dual handguns. He seldom speaks and possesses a serious demeanor and a strong common sense. There's Makina Kunagiri. Kunagiri. A dark-haired boy who wields twin rapiers, who was transferred into Class 0 alongside his childhood friend Rem. In spite of his proficiency and straightforwardness, Makina fears losing those close to him and can thus act irrationally. And then there is Rem, a brunette girl who wields twin daggers. She is moral, kind, and honest, and has an outstanding talent for magic. Yeah, so that's Type 0. It's one of those that I've been, like, kind of staring at and like, do I want to play? Do I really want to play? I don't know. Exactly. Moving on, there is Final Fantasy Agito, which was a follow-up. However, it is a free-to-play iOS Android that was canceled. So, it was released only in Japan. So, unfortunately, not much else to say about it. And then there's Final Fantasy Awakening, which was an online multiplayer game based on Type 0 and was developed because of the discontinued Final Fantasy Agito. However, it's only in China and Japan, and it shut down last year. So yeah, that's that. Alright, now we're moving on to Final Fantasy Tactics, which is another subset of Final Fantasy games that we could play. So, this is a tactical role-playing game. The original was released in June of 1997, and then came out in the US in January of 1998. It's the first game of the Tactics series. It combines thematic elements of the Final Fantasy video game series with a game engine and battle system unlike those previously seen. Final Fantasy Tactics uses a 3D isometric rotatable playing field with bitmap sprite characters. It is set in a fictional medieval-inspired kingdom called Ivalice. I feel like I understand where the name Ivalice came from. Well, actually, they probably stole Ivalice from here. So, the game's story follows Ramza Belv, a highborn cadet who finds himself thrust into the middle of an intricate military conflict known as the Lion War, where two opposing nobile factions are coveting the throne of the kingdom. This game received extremely positive reviews from gaming magazines and websites and has become a cult classic. It has been cited as one of the greatest video games of all time. A spin-off title, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, was released for the Game Boy Advance in 2003, and a sequel, Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift, was released in 2007 for the DS. Various other games have utilized the Ivalice setting, including Vagrant Story and Final Fantasy XII. An enhanced port of Final Fantasy Tactics called Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions was released in 2007 as part of Square Enix's Ivalice Alliance project. So the gameplay differs in several key areas from other titles in the Final Fantasy series. Instead of a generic battle screen with the characters' players on one side and the enemies on the other, encounters take place on a three-dimensional isometric field. So characters can move around on this battlefield now, and depending on the location of enemies and the type of attack you're doing, you can hit an enemy that's like 3 spaces away from you if you've got like a magic spell or a distance attack. Or if it's a close attack, they have to be like right next to you type of deal. Enemies move on a battlefield composed of square tiles. Movement and action ranges are determined by the character's statistic and job class. Battles are turn-based. A unit may act when its CT or charge time reaches 100. Charge time is increased once every CT unit, a measure of time in battles, by an equal amount of the unit's speed statistic. When CT reaches 100 or greater, the unit may act. During battle, whenever a unit performs an action successfully, it gains EXP and JP. Another distance is the manner in which random battles are encountered. Like other Final Fantasy games, random battles occur on a world map. However, in Final Fantasy Tactics, random battles happen only in preset locations, marked in green on the world map. So they're not really random, but whatever. Passing over one of these spots may result in a random encounter. Another major aspect of battles is magical attacks. Certain magical attacks cause area of effect damage, and many of the more powerful magical attacks require several turns of charging. Hit points of enemy units are also visible to the player, except in certain cases of certain bosses, allowing the player to know exactly how much damage they still have to inflict on a particular unit. A good way to think of this is if you're familiar with the Fire Emblem. This was a predecessor to Fire Emblem, and Fire Emblem probably borrowed from this, most likely. Or Final Fantasy borrowed from Fire Emblem. I don't know. But they're kind of the same. Movement on the world map is limited to predefined paths connecting to towns and battle points. When the character icon is over a town, a menu can be opened with several options. Bar is available for taking side quests. Shop for buying supplies and equipment. Soldier office for recruiting new characters. Later in the game, some towns contain fur shops for obtaining items by way of poaching monsters. So there are multiple different... You can customize your characters with the character class system. So this game makes extensive use of most of the original character classes seen in earlier Final Fantasy games, such as summoners, wizards or black mages, priests or white mages, monks, lancers or dragoons, and thieves. New recruits start out as either a squire or as a chemist, base class of warriors and magician jobs respectively. The game features 20 jobs accessible by normal characters. Throughout the game, unique characters also join the party, as well as some characters join as guests, which are computer-controlled characters that fight at the player's side. Many of the unique characters have custom jobs that replace the base squire class. It is also possible to recruit monsters into the party. Monsters have unique abilities but cannot change jobs. Monsters can be captured from battle or bred from existing monsters. In battle, JP are rewarded for every successful action. JP are used to learn new abilities within each class job. Accumulating enough JP results in a job level up. New jobs are unlocked by attaining a certain level in the current job class. For instance, to become a priest or a wizard, the unit must first obtain job level 2 as a chemist, which allows the character to gain more JP in that class in battles. Once all battles abilities in that job class have been learned, the class is mastered. A soldier in a specific job always has its innate skill equipped. Wizards always have black magic, knights always have battle skill, but a second job skill slot and several other ability slots, reaction support, and movement can be filled with any skill the particular soldier has learned. So that basically sums it up. You know, you've got you've just got things to do as you know. Yeah. Moving on. Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced, which is the Game Boy Advance, and as well it's a spin-off and shares a lot of traits with the 97 Tactics game, although it is not a direct sequel. The player assembles a clan of characters and controls their actions over grid-like battlefields. Players are mostly free to decide the classes, abilities, and statistics of their characters. The game's story focuses on 4 children: Marsh, Mute, Ritz, and Doned, who live in a small town of St. Evilise. Children are transported to a realm of the same name as their town, Evilise, after discovering an ancient magical book. The story then focuses on the exploits of Marsh as he attempts to return to the real world while facing opposition from those around him. So Tactics Advance is one of the initial products from the cooperation of Square and Nintendo, made for the Game Boy Advance console. It was developed by the team brought over from the game company Quest Corporation. Following its release, Tactics Advance themed merch was introduced. Okay. So, in Tactics Advance, turn-based tactical battle takes place on the 3D isometric field. The player takes the role of Marsh, a clan leader. He must organize the clan's members and advance their status through missions that are offered in pubs. The player competes against computer's team in turn-based play, although unlike Final Fantasy Tactics, characters execute their actions instantly. Missions are tasks undertaken by a clan. There are 4 types of mission: regular, encounter, dispatch, and area. In regular missions, the entire party ventures into a particular location to do battle. Many of these missions are used to advance the story. In encounter missions, the group battles a rival mercenary clan by purchasing a mission or meeting them on the map. In dispatch missions, which do not involve battle, you temporarily send away one member of the party. Area missions, usually a dispatch mission where the clan can liberate certain regions to obtain bonuses and discounts at shops. So there's a lot more stuff behind the scenes that you can do. That's interesting. Some missions, which are typically dispatch missions, require a special item to be in possession in order to accept the mission. Others require a dispatch character to have a specific job class. In regards to items, this may mean another mission must be done to get that item that would allow you to perform a later mission. The world map is initially empty except for the starting location. It is customized as the player wins location tokens after certain missions. These tokens represent different terrains and settlements such as plains, mountains, deserts, forests, and towns that can be placed in slots on the world map. Items are rewarded to the player depending on the placement of tokens. Evilise also introduced areas called Jags, or Yags, lawless slums that judges avoid. Jagd is a German word which means the hunt. Yags are the only place in the game in which a character can die. Everywhere else they are protected from death by the judges and are simply knocked out. Job system. There are 34 jobs in Tactics Advanced that govern a character's stats, equipment, and abilities. Most items that can be equipped have various abilities assigned to them, each available for use by characters of a certain job while the item is equipped. When a battle is completed, characters will receive AP distributed over their currently equipped weapons or items, such as armor. Once a target amount of AP has been accumulated for a given ability, the character will master that ability, allowing the character to use them at any time, regardless of items equipped in the job chosen. Mastery of abilities in different jobs will eventually allow the characters to access more jobs. For example, if a human unit wishes to change jobs to Paladin, it needs to master at least 2 action abilities from the Soldier job. Units have a primary job, which determines the stat boost they receive when they level up, and the attributes associated with that class. A unit may also have a secondary job set of abilities where it can use any abilities of the selected job, but with a stat profile of the primary job. For example, an assassin with a sniper secondary job could use abilities from both jobs, but the stat profile and appearance of an assassin is the primary job. This may deny the use of some abilities depending on their equipped weapon. In the previous example, any abilities that require the possession of a great bow would not be available for use if a character has a katana equipped. So there are 5 playable races. There are the humans, there are small rodent-like Moogles, there are strong lizard-like Banga, there are agile rabbit-like Viera, and then there's the magically skilled Numo. Certain jobs are only available to certain races. Along with the abilities obtained with the experience, each race has a guardian beast called a totema, to represent whom and which can be summoned to whose aid when a member of that race has 10 judge points. That is, after your clan has defeated that totema as part of the main storyline. Laws. One arbitrary game mechanic of Tactics Advance is the law system. Laws are set by judges, which are invincible arbiters available or present at each battle, with some exceptions. Laws may forbid the use of certain weapons, items, elemental spells, or status changes. Breaking a law results in punishment by carding the recipient of a red or yellow card. Imprisonment happens if a character infringes a law twice or knocks out another unit with a forbidden ability or weapon. However, Yagged have no judges or laws. Units knocked out in the Yags will die and permanently leave the clan if they are not revived by the end of battle. To offset the difficulty of having things forbidden for use, there are certain things that are recommended by the judges, and therefore grant judge points if used. Judge points are used to carry out combos with nearby allies or summon a totema. JP are also received upon knocking out an opponent. Later in the game, the player gains the ability to use law cards, which can add laws, and anti-law cards, which can nullify laws that are already in effect. So that's really interesting. So, yay! And then, of course, there's Final Fantasy Tactics A2, Grimoire of the Rift. Basically, this follows a young man named Luso, and who is transported through a magical book to the world of Ivalice. Rescued from monsters by a clan leader named Sid, and later joined by the thief Adele, Luso becomes involved in a battle between rival clans as he seeks a way home. Basically, this follows the exact same thing as the Tactics Advance, what with the grid, the job system, and the law system. This was actually originally planned for the Advance as well, but because of the DS's commercial success, they threw it on the DS. So, is there anything different here? There are clan quests, which give you a special currency called clan points and feature optional handicaps. The reward for completion increases with the amount of handicaps in place. It looks like, depending on your clan ranking, you can buy new equipment. Weather can affect things. Characters from Final Fantasy XII will appear as cameos with exclusive jobs. The characters are Vaughn, Pinello, Alcid, and Mont Blanc. So, nothing interesting. There are 7 races here. The 5 returning races are the Humes, the Mughals, the Nomu, the Viera, and the Banga. And then they added 2 new. They added the Sikh from 12 and a brand new race called the Griya. So that's about it for that. And now we're going to jump into the last 4 spin-offs that we have. There is the Final Fantasy VII spin-offs. I have never played these, but we have them. We have Before Crisis, Final Fantasy VII. This is an ARPG released for the mobile phone. Japan only. This was the first Final Fantasy game for mobile devices. It was designed as a gameplay and multiplayer experience unique to the platform. Let's see. Before Crisis is a ARPG featuring 2D graphics as the player moves in a side-scrolling manner. The player begins the game by selecting their character, which can be a man or a woman, along with their name. Gameplay is divided up into several modes. There's Episode Mark, which involves the player playing through the main storyline, completing various objectives in order to continue the game. Free Mode allows players to roam towns and speak with the population. Players can also play extra missions to gain EXP and items, some of which are exclusive to Free Mode. There are hit points and magic points, and you can level up upon acquisition of experience. The materia generation system allows players to acquire materia, objects tied to the game's magic system, by taking a picture with their camera phone. The game synthesizes the picture down to its base color. Depending on the dominant color, lighting, and other factors, the game produces a materia of a certain type. For example, a dark green picture results in a biomaterial, while a blue picture results in a cure material. Once acquired, materia can be leveled up, like in 7. So, Before Crisis is set 6 years prior to 7. The world on which Before Crisis is set, called the planet in game, and this was called by Gaia, by the game staff, divided into multiple regions run by the mega corporation Shinra Electric Power Company. So the playable characters and main protagonists in this game are the Turks, the group of covert operatives working for Shinra. The playable characters in-game are 11 new Turks, 10 of them designated by their weapon or fighting style and their gender, while the 11th is known as Legend Male. Their true name can be selected by the player. One of the characters, Shuriken, later turns up in Crisis Core. The Turks are led by Veld, a veteran of the group, and later Sang, a character who plays an important role in other 7 stories. The primary antagonists all belong to Avalanche. The 3 important Avalanche characters are Elf, the leader of Avalanche, and Veld's daughter, Fujito, a scientist who acts as the planner of the group, and Shears, the second in command. Multiple characters from Final Fantasy VII make appearances as cameos or supporting characters, such as Cloud Strife, Tifa Lockhart, Aerith, and Zack Fair, and original antagonist Rufus Shinra. So, yeah. Now, here is an interesting spin-off. It's called The Dirge of Cerberus. It's an ARPG third-person shooter for the PlayStation 2. This game is set 3 years after the events of the original game and focuses on one of the game's playable characters, Vincent Valentine. In the story, Vincent is targeted by Deep Ground, a mysterious organization that plans to awaken a creature known as Omega with the ability to destroy the planet. As the first shooter in the Final Fantasy series, the game staff had various problems during development. The team added role-playing elements in order to make the game more entertaining for traditional fans of the series. When Dirge of Cerberus was released outside Japan, several aspects of the gameplay were modified in order to make it more appealing. It has mixed reactions. Dirge of Cerberus, battles occur in real time, with the HUD displaying information such as Vincent's HP and MP, the currently selected items and quantity thereof, and a crosshair to aid in targeting enemies. The action is viewed from over-the-shoulder perspective, similar to Resident Evil 4, although players can switch to a first-person perspective if they want. Defeating enemies yield EXP, and at the end of the stage, they can use that EXP to level up, increasing Vincent's stats, or convert it to gil, which can then be used to purchase items and equipment upgrades. Unlike 7, when a character can equip 3 different types of equipment, Vincent's equipment consists solely of his weapon, which can contribute to his armor rating and enhance his stats. Vincent has 3 basic gun frames available to him: a 3-barrel handgun called Cerberus, a rifle called Hydra, and a machine gun called Griffin. There are also several different barrels available throughout the game, short, regular, and long, with longer barrels allowing easier long-range targeting, but reducing Vincent's movement speed due to their weight. Accessories can be attached to the weapon, such as a sniper scope, charms which can increase Vincent's defense and decrease the weight of the gun, among other things, and material, which enables magic shots. Ammunition capacity can also be increased through upgrades. Vincent's limit breaks return, so you have 2 forms. So Vincent's limit break, since we didn't see Vincent yet in 7, his ability is he can transform into a random monster, but you lose control of him. So 2 of his forms are available in the Dirge of Cerberus. The first is the Galian Beast, in which Vincent transforms into a large creature, which enhances speed and strength that lasts for 30 seconds. The second is Gaios, Vincent's most powerful form, which is only available in the final stage of the game and is not optional. Bah, bah, bah. So yeah, I'm not going to discuss the story because it's got plot spoilers. But yeah, that's the Dirge of Cerberus. Let's see. There is a mobile phone tie-in, but it looks like it was Japanese only, unfortunately. It's called Dirge of Cerberus Lost Episode. Yeah. It's available on Verizon's Vcast network, which I've never heard of. IGN gave it passable. That's about all I can do. And then the final one we've got is Crisis Core for Final Fantasy VII. Another ARPG released in 2007 for the PSP. Does not look like it got released anywhere else. This is a prequel to 7 and is part of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII. So the gameplay primarily focuses on Zack Fair, a young member of the paramilitary organization Soldier who is assigned to look for a missing soldier, Genesis Rhapsodos. As he searches for Genesis, Zack discovers Genesis's origin, Project G. Now it relates to two other high-ranking soldiers who are Sephiroth and Angela Hewley. Game's storyline takes the player from the war between the mega corporation Shinra and the people of Wutai to the events in Nibelheim, ending just before the beginning of Final Fantasy VII. So, obviously, it's an ARPG in which you control Zack Fair. The player moves Zack through and between open areas, allowing him to talk to NPCs, interact with the environment, and engage monsters in battles. Save points, you can opt to take an available side mission, and if so, Zack is moved to the special area to complete that mission, which usually involves defeating one or more monsters. If the mission is successfully completed, you're rewarded with beneficial items, and new missions become available. Whether you are successful in a side mission or not, upon completion, you are returned to the save point. Oh, that's nice. So the real-time combat system allows you to move Zack around, initiate attacks, special abilities and spells, use items, and block or dodge attacks. Zack's abilities in battle are set by what materia he currently has equipped. You can have up to 6 equipped at one time, which can impart special attacks, magic spells, or passive bonuses such as health increases or the ability to display statistics of the current foe in combat. Materia are gained throughout the game through exploration as rewards for side missions, as spoils of battle, or from shops. Materia can be fused together. That's nice. The fact that you can actually fuse things to create improved bonuses, such as fusing an attack materia with an elemental magic materia, can create a new attack skill materia that inflicts elemental magic damage in addition to physical damage. Special items collected in the game can also be used in materia fusion to further increase materia's power. Fusion really is always a bonus because it allows you to take things. It's like these are two good materias that are really good by themselves, but if you combine them, they would become a super materia, and then you could add a new materia spot in. But Crisis Core uses a slot machine-like effect to affect the combat system. The Digital Mind Wave features 2 sets of 3 spinning wheels, one with the numbers 1 through 7, and another with pictures of characters that Zack befriends during the game. The DMW automatically spins Zack as long as Zack has at least 10 soldier points, which are awarded by the player defeating foes. If the DMW stops with the same 3 pictures lined up, Zack will perform an appropriate limit break attack that can greatly harm an enemy or significantly heal Zack. Additionally, in this case, if the number slots give 2 or more of the same number, the materia in that slot will power up. Should the numbers line up as 777, Zack will gain an experience level increase in his health, soldier point, and ability points. If there is no match in the pictures, matching numbers on the slots will grant temporary bonuses such as limited invincibility or 0 cost use of skills and abilities. Chance of matching pictures is tied to the current limit level, which is raised by taking damage in battle and reduced upon successful battles, and after certain storyline events. After collecting certain items in the game, the pictures on the DMW will also randomly change to summonable creatures, which have more destructive and beneficial limit breaks, should those pictures line up. Following completion of the game, the player can obtain a New Game Plus. So, there we go. I've always been curious about playing Crisis Core, but it's on the PSP, and nobody likes playing the PSP. So that's a problem. And there's one other spin-off for Final Fantasy VII. Is it? Yes. It's a movie, actually. It's called Advent Children. Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. I would not watch it if I were you, because it takes place 2 years after the original, and this will be the last thing we touch upon. Final Fantasy VII Advent Children is a 2005 Japanese computer animated film. It was released for DVD, though. Advent Children takes place 2 years after the events of 7 and focuses on the appearance of a trio that kidnaps children infected with an unexplained disease. Former FF7 hero Cloud Strife, suffering from the same disease, goes to rescue the children. He discovers that the trio plan to resurrect Sephiroth using the remains of the extraterrestrial villain Genova, and he and his compatriots from the game fight to stop them. So, sounds interesting. But, yeah, that kind of does it for us today for, the podcast. And that kind of does it for us hitting all the Final Fantasies for the last, this is the 7th Final Fantasy podcast we've done, I think. We've done a lot of Final Fantasy podcasts because there's just so much to go over in just terms of the main game, what makes up Final Fantasy, and then all these side games. Yeah, but that kind of does it for our Final Fantasy series. I'm looking for suggestions for what we should do moving forward. I have a couple on the back burner that I can do. But yeah, that has been it for us today. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and until the next time, everybody, stay funky, people.